In a quiet village nestled between rolling hills and thick forests, lived a young woman named Anya Petrova. She was only 25, but life had already taught her more than most learn in a lifetime. Widowed and raising a toddler son alone, she carried herself with quiet strength and grace. Her husband, Mikhail, had passed away 2 years earlier, leaving her with a broken heart and a child to raise without a father. Life in the small Eastern European village wasn't easy for a single mother. People talked, some helped, but many simply looked away. Anya worked hard, cleaning homes, sewing clothes, and sometimes helping at the local bakery to make sure her little boy Sasha never went hungry. He was her whole world, a bright-eyed, curious child who brought joy into even the darkest days. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills and painted the sky in soft shades of pink and orange, Anya sat on the wooden steps of her small cottage. Sasha played nearby, chasing a butterfly that danced through the air. She watched him with tired eyes, thinking about their future. She knew he deserved more than this, more than the cold winters, the long hours of work, and the whispers behind closed doors. That night, after tucking Sasha into bed, she lit a candle and pulled out a folded piece of paper from a drawer. It was a newspaper clipping she'd kept for weeks, torn from a publication that rarely made it to their village. On it was an advertisement placed by a man in America seeking a mail-order bride. The idea seemed strange, almost like something from a dream, but desperation can make dreams feel possible. The letter described a rancher looking for a kind-hearted woman willing to start a new life across the ocean. He promised a home, food and safety in return for companionship and partnership. There were no pictures, only words filled with hope and loneliness. Anya read the ad again, tracing the letters with her finger. She thought about Sasha growing, up here, always seen as different, always struggling. Then she imagined a place where no one knew their past, where they could start over. She knew it would be hard, leaving everything she'd ever known, traveling to a land so far away. But she also knew she had to try, she wrote back. Weeks passed before she received a reply. When it came, she held the envelope tightly in her hands, her heart pounding. She opened it slowly and read the neat handwriting inside. The man introduced himself as Mr. James Holloway, a ranch owner in a small town called Redwater, Montana. He spoke of his quiet life, his hopes for a family, and how he believed they might find happiness together. He asked questions. What did she enjoy doing? What kind of life did she imagine? Did she love nature? Did she believe in second chances? Anya answered each one carefully, painting a picture of herself as gentle, hardworking, and loving. She wrote about her faith, her cooking, and how much she loved children. But she didn't mention Sasha. It felt wrong to hide something so important. But fear gripped her heart. Would James still want her if he knew she had a child? Would he think she was trying to trick him? Or worse, would he say no altogether? She told herself it was better to wait, to explain once they met. Maybe then, face to face, he would understand. Over the next few months, letters flew back and forth across the ocean. They shared stories, dreams, and pieces of their hearts. Anya learned that James had lost his parents young and had spent his life building a successful cattle ranch. He was kind, patient, and lonely. He dreamed of sitting by the fire with someone beside him, of sharing meals and laughter. Anya, too, began to dream. She imagined wide-open skies, horses running free, and Sasha playing in fields instead of alleyways. She saw herself wearing long dresses, baking bread in a warm kitchen, and waking up beside a man who truly cared for her. Finally, the day came when James offered to pay for her journey to America. He sent money for tickets, promising to meet her at the station and welcome her into his home. Anya packed everything she could, clothes for both her and Sasha, a few treasured photos, and a small doll Sasha had grown attached to. She said goodbye to the village quietly, not telling many people where she was going. Some wished her luck, others whispered behind her back, but she didn't look back. The journey was long and difficult. Trains, ships, and more trains. Sasha cried at times, got sick once, but mostly clung to his mother and tried to sleep. Anya barely rested, worrying about what lay ahead. Would James accept her? Would he love Sasha like his own, or would he turn them away? After what felt like forever, the train finally rolled into the dusty little town of Redwater. The station was small, surrounded by dry grass and big blue skies. The sun was high, casting long shadows across the wooden platform. Anya stepped off the train with Sasha in her arms, her heart beating fast. She scanned the crowd, searching for a tall man with kind eyes, the image she had built in her mind after all those letters. But instead, she saw a man standing alone, arms crossed, frowning. He wasn't James. He walked toward her, hat low over, his eyes, and stopped just short of reaching her. "You're the mail-order bride?" he asked, voice rough like gravel. Yes, Anya replied, tightening her grip on Sasha. "I'm Anya. I was supposed to meet Mr. Holloway." The man studied her for a moment, then shook his head. "You weren't supposed to bring a kid," he said bluntly. Anya's stomach dropped. I wanted to tell him, but I was scared. Please, let me talk to him. He'll understand." The man sighed. "That's not going to happen. He won't have you now. He wanted a wife, not a mother." Tears welled up in Anya's eyes as the man handed her a ticket, a return ticket to where she came from. "But we don't have anywhere else to go," she whispered. He gave her a sad look, but turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone on the hot platform with her sleeping child in her arms. The wind blew gently through the trees, carrying the scent of dust and distant pine. Anya stood there, heartbroken, unsure of what to do next. And somewhere across town, a man named Caleb Whitmore sat on his porch, sipping coffee and watching the sunset. He had heard rumors about the foreign woman rejected at the station. He didn't know why, but something deep inside him stirred at the thought of her. Maybe it was fate, maybe it was loneliness, or maybe it was just time for something new. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting golden light across the dusty town of Redwater. The train station had emptied out, leaving only a few workers walking around and a lone horse tied near the edge of the platform. Anya stood alone, her arms wrapped tightly around Sasha, who still slept peacefully despite everything happening around him. She looked down at the return ticket in her hand. Her heart felt like it was breaking into pieces. She had traveled so far, dreamed so big, believed so strongly that this would be their new start. And now, she was being sent back with nothing but the clothes on her back and the child in her arms. A soft wind blew through the trees nearby, making the leaves rustle. Anya took a deep breath and tried to think clearly. What should she do? She couldn't go back to the village. Not after everything. People there would look at her with pity, or worse, with judgment. She had no money, no job, and no home waiting for them here either. She walked slowly away from the station, not sure where she was going. Her feet hurt from the long journey, and her stomach growled from hunger. Sasha stirred slightly in her arms but didn't wake up. There was a small bench near the edge of the street under the shade of an old tree. Anya sat down carefully, trying not to wake her son. She looked around at the town. Wooden buildings, horses tied outside stores, people moving about their lives without even noticing her pain. Tears filled her eyes again, but she wiped them away quickly. She had to stay strong. For Sasha, a woman. Passed by with a basket of bread and gave Anya a curious glance, then kept walking. A boy ran past, chasing a ball, laughing loudly. Life went on around her, as if nothing had just changed forever. Anya pulled Sasha closer and whispered softly, "It's okay, my love. Mama will find a way." But how? Hours passed. The sun finally disappeared behind the hills, and the sky turned dark blue. Lanterns began to glow in the windows of homes and shops. Anya stayed on the bench, unsure of what else to do. She had nowhere to go, no one to ask for help. Then, from down the road, she heard the sound of hooves hitting the ground. Slowly, a man on horseback came into view. He wore a wide-brimmed hat and a coat that looked worn but clean. As he got closer, she saw that his face was kind, even though he looked tired, maybe even sad. He stopped his horse near her and looked down gently. "You're the lady from the train station?" he asked. Anya nodded quietly. I heard you were turned away, he said. Is that true? She swallowed hard and whispered, Yes. The man studied her for a moment. Then he looked at Sasha, still asleep in her arms. You've come a long way, he said. You must be hungry. Anya didn't answer right away. She wasn't sure if she should trust him or not, but something about his voice made her feel safe. Yes, she admitted. We haven't eaten since yesterday. Without another word, the man dismounted his horse. He moved with quiet strength, pulling a small cloth bag from his saddlebag and handing it to her. Here, he said. Some bread, cheese, and dried meat. Not much, but enough to get you through the night. Anya took the bag with trembling hands. Thank you, she said softly. The man nodded. I'm Caleb Whitmore, he said. I own a ranch just outside of town. Anya looked up at him. I'm Anya Petrova. Caleb watched her for a second, then glanced toward the horizon. You can't stay here all night, he said. It gets cold after sunset. Are you planning to take the next train back? Anya shook her head. No, I don't want to go back. Caleb was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I have a guest. House on my land. It's simple, but it's warm and safe. You and your boy can rest there tonight if you'd like. Anya stared at him, surprised. You would do that? He gave a small smile. Yes, nobody should be left out here alone. Tears welled up in her eyes again, but this time they were tears of hope. She had been rejected, thrown aside like a broken promise. And yet, here was a stranger offering kindness when he didn't have to. She stood up slowly, holding Sasha close. Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. Call me Caleb, he said. Come on, I'll give you a ride. He helped her onto the horse behind him, making sure she held Sasha securely. Then he rode slowly through the quiet streets and out into the open, land beyond the town. As they rode, Anya looked around in wonder. The sky was full of stars now, shining bright above the rolling fields and distant mountains. It was so different from the crowded alleys of her old village. There was space here, room to breathe, room to begin again. They reached a wooden house nestled beside a grove of trees. It looked peaceful, almost magical in the moonlight. Caleb helped her down and opened the door. Inside was a small but cozy room with a bed, a table, and a fireplace. There was even a small shelf with books. This is yours for the night, Caleb, said. Anya stepped inside, overwhelmed. Thank you, she said again, her voice barely above a whisper. Caleb nodded. Rest well. I'll check on you in the morning. Before he left, he handed her a small tin of matches and a candle. In case you need light. Then he was gone, closing the door gently behind him. Anya placed Sasha on the bed and tucked him in. She lit the candle and sat beside him, watching his peaceful face as he slept. For the first time since arriving in America, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Outside, Caleb stood near his horse looking up at the stars. He wasn't sure why he had offered her shelter. Maybe it was because he remembered what it felt like to lose someone, to feel completely alone, or maybe it was something else. Maybe it was the beginning of something neither of them expected. The next morning, a soft knock came at the door. Anya was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed watching Sasha sleep. She had barely closed her eyes all night, thinking about everything that had happened. But now, hearing the knock, she stood up quickly and opened the door. Caleb stood there holding a small basket covered with a cloth. He smiled slightly and held it out to her. I brought breakfast, he said. Fresh bread, eggs, and some milk for your boy. Anya took the basket with both hands, touched by his kindness. Thank you, Caleb, she said softly. He nodded. You can stay here as long as you need. I've got time before I head back to work. She stepped aside and motioned for him to come in. The room was warm from the fire she had managed to light. Sasha stirred but didn't wake up. Caleb looked around. It's not much, he said, but it's safe. It's more than enough, Anya replied. More than I expected. They sat at the small wooden table, sharing quiet conversation over breakfast. Caleb asked how Sasha was doing, and Anya told him about their journey, how hard it had been, how scared she had been to come so far without knowing what awaited them. I wanted to tell Mr. Holloway about Sasha, she admitted, but I was afraid he wouldn't want me if he knew I had a child. Caleb studied her for a moment. That was a risk, he said gently. I know, she said. But I did it for him, for Sasha. I wanted a better life for him. Caleb looked toward the sleeping boy. He's lucky to have you. Anya gave a small smile, though her eyes were tired. And I'm lucky to have him. After they finished eating, Caleb offered to take Anya and Sasha on a short ride around the ranch. He helped her onto the horse behind him, while Sasha sat safely in front of her, wrapped in a blanket. As they rode slowly through the open fields, the morning sun warming their faces, Anya felt something stir inside her, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The ranch was beautiful. Wide fields stretched in every direction, dotted with grazing cattle and wildflowers swaying in the breeze. Birds sang in the trees, and the scent of fresh earth filled the air. This is where I live, Caleb said, pointing toward a large wooden house near the top of a hill. It's lovely, Anya said. It's quiet, Caleb added, sometimes too quiet. Anya noticed the sadness in his voice. Were you married before? She asked carefully. Caleb was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. A long time ago, my wife passed away, along with our baby. Anya's heart sank. I'm so sorry. Caleb looked ahead, jaw tight. It changed me, made me pull away from people. I built this ranch with my own hands, but sometimes it feels like I built a wall around myself too. Anya understood. Grief could do that. It could make you feel like the world was moving forward while you stayed stuck in pain. They rode back to the guest house in silence, each lost in their thoughts. When they arrived, Caleb helped them down from the horse. I have work to do, he said, but I'll be back later. If you need anything, just ask one of the ranch hands. Anya nodded. Thank you again, Caleb. You're very kind. He gave her a small smile. Rest today. Tomorrow we'll figure out what comes next. Over the next few days, Anya stayed in the guest house and began helping around the ranch. She cooked meals for the workers, cleaned the main house, and even helped feed the animals. Caleb watched her closely, surprised by how easily she fit into life on the land. One afternoon, as they walked together near the stables, Caleb turned to her. You don't have to work, he said. You're a guest. Anya smiled. I want to help. I've always worked. It makes me feel useful. Caleb nodded. Still, thank you. One evening, as the sky turned pink and orange, Caleb invited Anya and Sasha to eat dinner with him in the main house. They sat at a long wooden table, sharing stories and laughter. Sasha, who had been shy at first, started calling Caleb uncle after a few days. Caleb would pretend not to notice, but Anya saw the way his eyes softened whenever the little boy reached for him. Weeks passed, and the days grew warmer. Life on the ranch became familiar to Anya. She no longer felt like a stranger in a strange land. And Caleb, he was changing too. He talked more, laughed more, even smiled more. One day, as they sat under a tree outside the house, Caleb turned to her. You know, he said, you don't have to leave. Anya looked at him surprised. I mean, you and Sasha are welcome to stay. As long as you want. She smiled softly. Are you sure? Caleb nodded. I've lived alone for too long. I think I've forgotten what it's like to have someone to come home to. Anya looked down at her hands. You don't mind that I have a child? Caleb shook his head. Not at all. In fact, I think I love him already. Anya felt tears well up in her eyes. She had traveled across the world searching for safety, for hope, for a future. And somehow, in the most unexpected place, she had found it. in the quiet kindness of a lonely cowboy, in the warmth of a home that wasn't hers yet, and in the slow, steady beat of a heart that was finally beginning to heal. As the weeks turned into months, life on Caleb's ranch began to feel like home for Anya and Sasha. The cold mornings gave way to warm spring days, and the land bloomed with wildflowers and birdsong. The quiet loneliness that had once filled Caleb's heart slowly softened, replaced by laughter, shared meals, and the small joys of everyday life. Anya worked hard, helping wherever she could. She cooked hearty meals for Caleb and the ranch hands, mended clothes, and even learned how to help care for the animals. She was never asked to do these things. Caleb always reminded her that she was not a servant, but she did them out of love and gratitude. Sasha grew stronger every day. He ran through the fields, chased chickens, and climbed onto wooden crates like they were mountains. And Caleb? He became more than just a kind stranger offering shelter. He became a part of their lives. At first it was small things. Caleb would carry Sasha on his shoulders when they walked back from the barn. He'd teach him how to hold a horse's reins, or tell him stories about the stars at night. But soon, those moments turned into something deeper. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and painted the sky in orange and pink, Caleb sat on the porch with Sasha curled up beside him. Anya stepped outside with 2 cups of tea, handing one to Caleb before sitting down beside him. "You're good with him," she said softly. Caleb looked down at Sasha, who was half asleep with his head on Caleb's lap. "He's easy to be good with," he replied. "He's a good kid." Anya smiled. "Thank you for letting us stay, for being so kind to him." Caleb took a slow sip of his tea. "You don't have to thank me. I'm the one who should be thanking you." Anya raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For bringing life back into this house," Caleb said quietly. "I forgot what it felt like to come home to someone waiting for me, to hear laughter in the halls, to feel needed." Anya looked at him, touched by his words. "You've been alone for a long time, haven't you?" Caleb nodded. "Too long. I think I built walls around myself after losing my wife and child. I told myself I didn't need anyone else, that I could live out the rest of my days here, quiet and alone." "But," she asked gently. "But then you came," Caleb said, smiling slightly. "And you brought Sasha. And now, I don't know if I can imagine life without either of you." Anya felt her heart flutter. She had known for a while now that she cared deeply for Caleb. Not just because he had opened his home to them, but because he had opened his heart. He had given them safety, purpose, and a future they hadn't dared to dream of. But she also knew that falling in love again wasn't simple. She still carried the memory of Mikhail in her heart, and Caleb carried the pain of his past loss. Love didn't erase the past, it simply added new chapters. Still, she couldn't deny what was growing between them. "I care about you too, Caleb," she said softly. "More than I thought I would." Caleb looked at her, his eyes full of emotion. "Do you think there's a future for us?" Anya looked down at Sasha, sleeping peacefully between them. "If there's one thing I've learned," she said, "it's that love doesn't always come the way we expect. Sometimes it finds us when we're broken, when we're tired, when we think we've already lost everything." Caleb reached out and gently took her hand. "Then maybe we can start again, together." Anya gave him a soft smile. Together. From that night on, things changed. Not suddenly, but gently, like the turning of seasons. Caleb and Anya spent more time together, talking late into the evenings, sharing stories of their pasts and dreaming about the future. They laughed more, touched more, and leaned on each other in ways that felt natural and right. Word spread through town, of course. People talked. Some were curious, others skeptical. After all, Caleb Whitmore had been a loner for years. Now he was seen walking with a woman and a child, smiling more than anyone could remember. But Caleb didn't care what people said. Neither did Anya. Then, one day, a man arrived in town, James Holloway. He had heard about the foreign woman who had been sent away at the station, and he came looking for her. When he found out she was staying with Caleb, he went straight to the ranch. Caleb was fixing a fence when James rode up. He dismounted and walked over with a serious look on his face. "I hear she's still here," James said. Caleb stood up slowly, wiping sweat from his brow. "She is." James crossed his arms. "I want to talk to her. I made a mistake. I let pride get in the way." Caleb studied him carefully. "You turned her away. You hurt her." "I know," James admitted. "I was wrong. I thought I wanted someone different, someone without complications." Caleb's jaw tightened. "She's not a complication. She's a blessing." James looked away. "I see that now. I was a fool." Caleb didn't answer right away. Then he said, "She's not yours to claim anymore." James nodded. "I understand, but I still want to apologize. Just once." Caleb hesitated, then finally said, "Fine. Come inside." When James saw Anya, he looked surprised at how happy she seemed. She held Sasha close as James spoke. "I'm sorry," he said. "I treated you unfairly. I judged you without knowing your story. I was scared of change, of things I couldn't control." Anya listened quietly. "I hope you can forgive me," James said. "And I hope you're happy here." Anya looked at Caleb, who stood nearby watching them both. "I am," she said simply. James gave a small nod. "Good. That's all I wanted." He left that afternoon, riding back toward town, and with him went the last shadow of Anya's past rejection. That night, as they sat under the stars, Caleb turned to her. "You really are happy here, aren't you?" he asked. Anya smiled. "Yes, I really am." Caleb reached for her hand. "Then let's make this place our home, for real." Anya leaned her head on his shoulder. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's." The wind blew gently through the trees, carrying with it the scent of earth and wildflowers. Somewhere nearby, a coyote howled and Sasha stirred in his sleep. Life was changing, not fast, not loud, but deep and true. One warm spring morning, as golden sunlight spilled across the fields and birds sang in the trees, Caleb stood on the porch of his house, watching Anya and Sasha play in the yard. The little boy ran after a butterfly, laughing with pure joy, while Anya followed behind with a soft smile on her face. Caleb had lived many years on this land, most of them alone. But now, standing there with a cup of coffee in hand and his heart full, he couldn't imagine life any other way. It had taken time for wounds to heal, for trust to grow, and for love to settle into something real and lasting. But now, here they were, a family not born from tradition or expectation, but from choice, care, and quiet courage. That afternoon, Caleb found himself walking toward the barn, where Anya was helping one of the ranch hands fix a broken harness. She looked up when she saw him and smiled. "You look serious," she said gently. Caleb gave a small chuckle. "I guess I am." He took a deep breath before continuing. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said, "about us, about what we have, and about what comes next." Anya wiped her hands on her apron and stepped closer. "What do you mean?" Caleb looked into her eyes, steady and sure. "I want this to be real," he said. "Not just because we live together, not just because we share meals and work and laughter. I want it all. I want to stand beside you in front of the world and say, 'You're mine,' that we're a family." Anya's breath caught in her throat. Caleb reached out and gently took her hand. "Anya Petrova," he said softly, "will you marry me?" For a moment she didn't speak. Her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness but of joy so deep it felt like it might overflow. Then slowly she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Caleb. I will." He pulled her into a hug, holding her close. For the first time in a long time, Caleb felt complete, and so did Anya. The wedding was small but beautiful. They held it under the big blooming tree near the ranch house, where wildflowers danced in the breeze and birds chirped overhead. Friends from town came, some who had once whispered about Caleb's solitude, now smiling and cheering for the man who had finally opened his heart. Sasha wore a tiny suit, given to him by one of the ranch workers' wives, and proudly carried a small basket of rose petals to scatter along the path. He beamed with pride as he walked ahead of his mother. Anya wore a simple white dress that she had sewn herself, with help from some of the women in town who had come to love and respect her. Her hair was braided, and her eyes sparkled with emotion as she took Caleb's hand beneath the tree. The preacher spoke of second chances, of love that grows quietly and lasts forever. He spoke of healing, of strength, and of the kind of love that chooses you when you least expect it. When Caleb and Anya exchanged their vows, they didn't use fancy words or promises too grand to keep. They spoke simply, truthfully. "I promise to stand by your side," Caleb said, "through every season, good or hard. I promise to love you with all that I am," Anya said, "and to build a life where both our hearts are free." When they kissed, the crowd clapped and cheered. Sasha laughed and jumped up and down. Later, they shared a meal of roasted chicken, fresh bread, and sweet berries picked from the nearby bushes. There was music, dancing, and stories told late into the evening. And as the stars began to fill the sky, Caleb and Anya sat together on the porch, shoulders touching, hands held tightly between them. Sasha had fallen asleep in Anya's lap, wrapped in a warm blanket. "He loves you," Anya whispered. Caleb looked at the sleeping boy, then back at her. "I love him too. He's my son now, even if he doesn't have my name." Anya smiled. "Someday maybe he will." Caleb shook his head. "He doesn't need to. He already has everything else." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the night wind blow through the trees. "I used to think my life was over," Caleb said finally. "After losing everything, I thought I'd never feel whole again." Anya leaned her head on his shoulder. "But you do now." He nodded. "Because of you. Because of him." She looked up at him. "We found each other when we needed someone the most." Caleb smiled. "Maybe that's what love really is." They stayed outside until the stars shone bright above them, wrapped in the warmth of a new beginning. Years passed. The ranch grew stronger. Cattle thrived, crops were harvested, and more workers joined the land. But more importantly, the family grew deeper. Caleb and Anya worked side by side, raising Sasha with love, discipline, and kindness. Other children came later, 2 girls who brought even more laughter into the house. But no matter how many children filled the halls, Sasha always knew how special he was. He was the one who started it all. He was the reason 2 lonely hearts found each other. And as the seasons changed and the years went by, Caleb and Anya never forgot the journey that had brought them together. They never stopped thanking each other for choosing love over fear, for choosing each other. In the end, their story wasn't about wealth, fame, or perfect beginnings. It was about hope, about healing, about finding love in the unlikeliest of places, and most of all, it was about second chances, the kind that only come when you dare to believe in them, even when the world turns you away, especially when the world turns you away.